Should a filmmaker edit their own movie?
I don't think so. Obviously, the Coen brothers disagree with me, but they have someone they're editing with them. So a filmmaker should do whatever they want. But having said that, you know, it's sort of it's a real opportunity to have someone else look at the footage who's, you know, an experienced editor, and then, you know, give you their interpretation of it, and, you know, hopefully give you fresh perspective and find things that you might not have seen because you were too busy being bothered by something on the set. You know, I think if you have the opportunity to have someone edit your film for you, I think that you would be foolish not to take advantage of that. I mean, it's so much work to direct a movie to begin with. Depending on the film, I mean, you know, if it's a small film and you have the time and you have the money to do it by yourself, maybe that's great. But you know, I think that getting perspective is such an important part of the process. And having an editor present to you, you know, a different version of the material than maybe what you had imagined would be great. I mean, yeah, sure, they're going to screw it up sometimes, but it's only film, you can always fix it.
If someone was trying to save money, let's say, but they needed those outside eyes for context,
yeah.
Maybe have them do the rough cut and then hand over the files, and then from there, the film. I mean, I'm just, because so many of the people that we have watching the channel, they're kind of like, you know, they're having to do all of it themselves. Maybe that's for their first film. Maybe then subsequent films, they'll hire someone, but.
I think having someone do a first assembly might give them a fresh set of eyes on the material that as it was shot. I think that would be a good idea. I think anybody, you know, and maybe they can take it over and sort of, you know, noodle with it for as long as they'd like, but, you know, and then show it to some more people. And I think that once you have an editor, you know, work with the material, you're going to get spoiled really fast because, you know, like I say, it's just a good editor can execute your ideas as quickly as you can think of them sometimes, you know, and it just enables, I would imagine, the director to be so much more creative and get the project done quicker. You know, to toil in that sort of not only creative but technical, you know, sort of morass that you can get bogged down in just seems like, again, directors have so much to do. I imagine that, you know, because time is money, and I'm just thinking that, you know, they also have to market their stuff and, you know, please investors, but I come from a different world, so I don't know. I don't really, you know, I really can't speak to how, you know, I think that if you have the luxury of being able to afford an editor, you should take advantage of it.
When you're editing, who's allowed in the studio?
Well, people seem to walk in and out all the time. I don't have a problem with people coming in and out unless maybe, you know, I'm having a bad morning or something. You know, I have an open door policy. Pretty much anybody can come in. I really don't sort of have, you know, maybe the PA sit there when I'm editing. In fact, I don't do that. But my assistants are welcome to come in. But I think that a good assistant, you know, they pretty much respect my space. And unless I ask them to look at something, they know that I need to sort of like stay focused and you know, get through what I'm trying to get through. Obviously, the director is there, you know, once their cut starts. Once I've showed them my first cut. And producers after the director, you know, when the director chooses. I mean, more and more producers try to noodle their way in there before the director's cut. The DGA director's cut is done contractually, but that's, you know, that's between them.
How common is it for a star, quote unquote star talent to join you in the editing room?
It's pretty common, you know, depending on the star. I've had, you know, I've screened the film for many of the actors that I've worked with the director, of course, and sometimes the producer. Sometimes the star is the producer, more often than not lately. So, you know, most actors these days want to take a more hands-on role in the process, and they're very creative people and are certainly entitled to their opinion, and they'll tell you it. So, yeah, all the time. I remember when Jack Nicholson came in for the day on Terms of Endearment and looked at the cut and gave Richie notes, and I don't know how thrilled Richie was about that at the time, but it sure was a lot of fun to have Jack Nicholson in the cutting room.
I think the movie turned out okay.
Yeah, it did.
What's the biggest issue editors get wrong with color grading, color correction?
Well, you know, it's really not the editor's bag. It's the DP's bag, and the director to a certain extent. You know, I express my opinion sometimes if I think something looks, you know, strange. For example, the last 3 films I've done have been comedies, and you know, if I kind of feel like comedies should pop and sort of, you know, really don't call for, you know, heavily dramatic, you know, sort of tones and things like that. And I think I'm on the same page with the director about that. And if I see something like that, I'll comment. But, you know, to a great extent, I mean, you know, that's their gig, and I don't want to say I don't have to worry about that. I mean, I obviously care about it. And again, if I think it's really critical, I'll pull the director aside and sort of maybe have a chat. But unless I'm asked to, I don't, you know, have a whole lot of say in it.
Right. I just wondered in terms too of like skin tone. Sometimes if you see something and it looks, you know, too orange, or just the color just doesn't seem right. You know, sometimes I've seen.
Yeah, no, I mean, and that's what I'm talking about. I mean, you know, if something seems strange or something like that. But you know, I've been lucky to work with some pretty great colorists, and you know, usually they get you in the ballpark pretty good. It's not like we're doing it ourselves, you know, and kind of like ballparking it. These people are doing it all the time, and again, usually it'll be a conversation with the DP and the director and the colorist about, you know, the tone they want to set and things like that. And usually they'll get it pretty good. I mean, yes, I have been on films where, you know, the DP has gone in what appears to me to be a strange direction, and like I say, I'll pull the director aside and I was like, is that what you really want? You know, I mean, it just seems like an odd choice. But those are things that you have to, you know, always be careful about, from my experience. You know, you have to really have built up a trust with the director, and you have to have sort of a relationship where you're not going to make them feel like you're stepping on anyone's toes and things like that. I mean, it's a different department. I mean, you know. So, although I think the whole film is my baby because I've nursed it for, you know, 6, 8 a year, you know, months a year. But at the end of the day, you know, it's the director's vision, and they get to sign off on it. So, unless the studio comes in and says, "What the hell is that guy orange for?" You know? It happens on occasion.